Sound is speed. Camera speeding.
Camera is rolling.
Thank you. Sister Mudau, take one.
Thank you. Don't worry, the slapping is not to wake you up. So, Professor Delapi thought we were trying to wake her up. You are sleeping. It's for us, the technical thing that we're doing. Please introduce yourself, and you are supposed to look only at me.
Okay.
Unfortunately, sorry. Sorry for you.
Oh,
so, yes, introduce yourself, your name, your surname, and what you do in the CHAMPS program. And please, can you use myths rather than me? I know you like me.
Okay. Yeah.
I know it's going to be difficult to change, but yes, try.
Okay. I'm Sister Azwi Mudau. I'm a study coordinator, and my responsibility are staffing, ordering of stock, preparing the kits for meat, and I also do the actual procedure for meat.
Cut. Should I ask them to leave me?
No.
Well, you can keep on glancing at
Okay.
Only me.
Only you.
It's like they are not
You
here.
must cover me.
Oh, none of them are here.
Okay, I'll try.
Try.
Okay.
Try. I know it's difficult. I'll try. I'll close my eyes. Okay, take two maybe.
Should we go for
cut.
start? Up to you.
You can come in.
Yeah.
Yes,
Sister Mudau, take two.
Okay, my name is Sister Azwi Mudau. I'm a study coordinator, and my responsibility are to make sure that we have enough staff for meat, and I'm also responsible for ordering of stock and make sure that we have enough stock for meat, and I also do the procedure and consenting of the family sometimes.
Okay, all rounder. Right. So, I mean, it seems like you're excited. I remember the first day when I came here, you were very excited when you were telling me what you guys do and the purpose of why you're doing it, the significance and so on. And somehow, you know, look at, why does it excite you to be doing this like this?
I think it's looking at the objective of doing it instead of looking at the procedure itself, because around Black community, I mean, death is kind of a strange
Sorry
thing.
guys, there's noise there somewhere. Sorry. Can you start again? What excites you? Try and include my question in your answer. So, the thing that excites me is...
Okay, the thing that excites me is the objective of doing it, why we're doing it. On top of
doing
meats.
Okay, let's start again.
Okay, what excites me most is the reason why we are doing meats. The objective to determine the cause of death on children under 5. So that's what's exciting, and the fact that it's something that's unusual for a nurse to be doing. Maybe I may be the first nurse in South Africa to be doing meats.
You may be the first nurse. Go back. Maybe.
I may be the first nurse who's actually doing meats in South Africa. I don't know around the world. But so it's really challenging and exciting for me to be able to carry out that procedure and to be able to inform the families about it. And I think when they look at your confidence, they actually know that you know what you're doing, and that actually enhances consenting and not getting refusals so much. As since we have started, we did have refusals, but because we know what we are doing and we explain it so well to the families, they actually consent to meet.
Mm-hmm. So I'm just curious, like you, what do you say to the family? What do you say?
Okay.
That will make them consent.
Firstly, what's more important when you get there, because there were several houses that I actually went to visit where the child has died. So it's to show concern, that to be sympathetic. You don't go there as some person who's actually interested on getting the consent, but to show that you are with them, and you actually want them to know. As much as you want to know the cause of death, you make them aware that it's more important to them as well to know what actually happened, why the baby has died or the child has died. So in that way, you kind of build the rapport before you actually introduce what you need to do. So the acceptance begins when you come into the family, before you actually introduce this meat procedure to them. So they should accept you first, so that they can accept what you have brought to them.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And okay, we'll skip the rest. And now they say yes. What do you do next?
If they say yes, we had to get it in writing. So I give them the consent forms to sign. And there's a questionnaire that's called acceptability. That's got different questions that we ask them. And after we finish, we explain to them that we'll go to the mortuary where the baby is or the body is. And that's where we're going to do the procedure. And we also explain to them that we call them, the maximum is 4 weeks, so that we can explain, give them back the results that we have found from this procedure, so that they could be rest assured that what we are doing is actually, because if we don't call them back, it's like we're holding back on our words. So we have called several families to come back, and we gave them the results. So you kind of reassure them that what we are doing is open and transparent. They will get the results that we're talking about.
And in a sense, they become your advocates in what's in it, because they tell others, right?
Yes.
Say that?
They become?
Well, advocates. I think that's the way they use
Yes,
it.
okay, yes. Because now, if this neighborhood has got that, and then the meat was introduced and the results were given to them and they kind of been satisfied with them, it's easy for them to tell a family member or the neighbor who had the certain, who had the death as well, to say this is what happened, and we actually knew what actually killed our little one. And I think they become advocates, as you said. As I mentioned, even on the focus group, I actually mentioned to them that when we're teaching you, because we just take some few members from the community, we are saying to you, you are also advocates. When you go out there, when people start to talk, say there are people in Bara, we're actually taking people's parts, because it's very easy for the community to actually misread what you are doing. So actually tell them that, you tell them what you have heard from the horse's mouth. We are telling them, we are showing you the needles, what we are using. So you go out there and give them what we have told you, so those misconceptions may be stopped around the community.
Okay, I'm just curious. What are those misconceptions? I mean, I hear the first one is we're taking bodies, but are there others?
Yeah, like there are people who are taking blood from, with the study, sometimes they say there are people who are taking blood and sell it to overseas. And, the community has always had some reasons on why things are done. So if we go out this transparent, not hiding anything to them, it's kind of, minimize those. It's minimize those misunderstandings around the community as a whole. So it enhances acceptance of needs in the community.
Right. I'm sorry, guys.
It's a creative hierarchy. Yeah.
Cut. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
Sounds good. Thank you, sir. Take 2.
Thank you.
Crossing.
Thank you. A little come back a bit. No, the other way. It was too much to the side. Yes, that's better. Yeah. Okay. So, you mentioned something. I'm just curious about it. You mentioned something about when you have people that you come and you're talking to them and they're going to go back to the community. What is that? What is it? Is that some way in which you're trying to interact with the communities to bring them so that they take the word back to the community, so you get more people to at least accept?
Yes.
Include my question in your answer.
Repeat your question again.
Okay, you mentioned talking to people that you bring in on your workshops, and you're kind of having them go back to communities and engage with them. is that the way in which you are trying to get the community more involved in the myths, in the chants?
This is the way that we are getting the community involved in myths, the Champs project. Our anthropologist, she goes out to the community and she selects certain community. I don't really know about her criteria, but she's responsible for that. So when she brought them in, she's got group discussions that she had with them. So my role in that part is to go and explain what the procedure itself. She will explain the theoretical part of it, why it's done, but I go then introduce the actual procedure, showing them the needles, how I take them, and explaining the whole process of meat procedure to those groups.
Right.
They are called focus groups.
Okay. All right. So maybe you take us through how you demonstrate to them. How do you demonstrate? Imagine, all everyone sitting here is those people.
Okay. First, I will introduce myself and what I do, and I will have this equipment with me, and I will explain the process of consenting and what happened after consent. So that's when I'll start, and I will tell them that we go to the mortuary, and in the mortuary we've got what we call an autopsy room. That's attached to the mortuary. And then we've got beds, we've got running water, and we've got our stock there. So when we get there, we fetch the body from the freezers, the mortuary, take it to the autopsy room, and then wash it with running water first. We run through water, and then we introduce 96% alcohol, which is called ethanol, and we wash the whole body with it, so that to clean whatever that could be around the skin. And then the first sample that we take is the CSF. That we use a normal needle and a syringe, and we take blood. We do direct heart step, or we go through the aorta and get those samples that we need. And the second sample then is the tissues. We start by the liver, and this is the needle that we use for the liver. So it's very easy. The liver is on the right side. We go between the last and the second last vertebra. That's where the liver is situated. And we just introduce this. We go in. We go in, and when it's in, you just press, and then it cuts. You come out, you introduce the tissue by pulling back. The tissue will be right there, like a string of, like I used to tell them that it's like a piece of a spaghetti. So then it goes into the bottle like this.
Please,
it's going to be floating. Okay.
Then it goes into the bottle like this.
It's going to go to the bottle like this, and this first one, the first tissue, we consider it a sterile one. So it goes for micro testing. And then we go again, and then we use the other one that's called, is called for molecular testing. I don't have it with me right now. It's a small bottle that comes to our lab. This one we send it to NHLS. And we take 5 cores per tissue. 1 for macro, 1 for molecular, 3 cores for histology. So we still use the same needle. So I'll use the same needle to go 5 times into the same place of the liver. And the 3 cores will go for histology. Also, it goes to the bottle like this and goes for histology at NHLS lab. Okay, that's it. And then the second tissue is the lung. We do both right and left.
Look at me when you say when you do both right and left.
Yes. And
Say it again.
we do both right and left lungs. So we introduce each needle per each side for sterility purposes, because the first core, the first tissue has to go for micro. So this is how we use this one. It's also it's an automatic one. We also go, we usually use the under the armpit when we go for the lung tissue. And then you just go in and press. So it cuts, you pull back, you introduce the tissue. And then you also go to the bottle like this for macro. And the second core will come to our lab for molecular on the small bottle with lysis buffer. didn't mention this before. And the 3 course goes into the container like this with formalin, and then it goes for histology at NHS. Okay. And this is for brain. So also take brain tissue.
This is from, let's start from scratch.
Yes.
Someone you like there. Who is it? I think it's you.
Nice.
I think maybe move a little bit to the
I'm
side.
actually not looking at the person, I'm just
You keep looking at her hair all the time. Okay, for brain, yes.
This is for brain tissue. We go via nasal on the small babies because the nasal bone is still soft. And then on the older baby where you cannot break the bone with this, we use the under the occipital bone. That's where we go through and go to the brain. So we do the same. We introduce this, and then we just press, and then it cuts, you pull back, you introduce the tissue. Same goes for the brain, because the nasal, the needle is already contaminated when it goes through the nasal, because there could be something on the nose. So we don't send for micro. We only do molecular and histology.
And when you go from the back?
Same.
Oh, is it contaminated as well when you go in the back?
Yes, I thought at first that if you can go to the back, maybe it won't be contaminated because it's not going through anything. But we haven't tried to test macro even we go through at the back. We are still following the same procedure of not sending the brain for macro.
Right. So now you have all these tissues, right? They're all in these bottles with formalin and everything else. Now, what happens next?
So we fill in the lab forms, which each bottle has got its own lab form, because they've got a specific barcode that comes from NHLS. So what I do next is to sit down and label all of them with patient's details, the meets number that we've allocated on each one of them, and the hospital number, and the barcode that comes from each lab. And then we send them to lab. So and then we clean the body, wrap it back, and take it back to the freezers.
Very involved process.
Yes.
It demands a lot of concentration, demands a lot of patience. I mean, say, what does it demand to be able to do if someone like me, I'm very haphazard, like want to do it quickly and finish, right? So I'm not the best candidate to do this. What are the things that really to be able to deliver a professional, job on this?
Yeah, you should be able to pay attention to detail, because it's very easy to mislabel, to give someone else meets number or GT number. So we do one patient at a time. So what I do, after I meet number 1, I sit down, label, put them separate, and then call for the next body to do, so that I don't mix them because there's a lot of paperwork. It's easy to mix the forms and all that. So we do one meets at a time. And I will be having my assistant, because there's someone who should bring me the next bottle, the next needle, because when I must be wearing sterile gloves, so I cannot touch all over. So there must be somebody who's handing over stuff. And we also need the third person who will separate this after. So when we are busy doing it, that person is separating them and putting the correct lab forms. That makes it quicker. But it's possible even just the 2 of you. It just will take much more time than when you're 3. Yeah.
Okay, cut, change your frame.
Okay, I'm coming to
Rolling camera.
Take 4, yeah?
Take 4.
Take 4.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Take 4.
Okay, all systems go?
All systems.
Okay, take 4.
Okay.
Okay, standing by, hold on.
Yeah. I want to just get the sense of, you're talking about precision, you're talking about using your physiological knowledge to be able to know, okay, this body is this much, that body is that much, that's the age, I need to go this deep or that deep or whatever. Can you talk about that and the significance of that?
Okay, that helps because you can see these needles are quite long, so they're kind of designed for 0 to 5 years. So it doesn't matter if it's a stillbirth or what, we still use the same needle. So when I said we use your physiological experience, is because we are not doing sonar to locate those, how big is it, where is it. So we use our own discretion, I would say. So depending on the age and the size of the body, you can determine that I mustn't go that deep because otherwise I'll punch the other part of the other side. I'm just giving an example. So when you go in, you can tell with your arm and looking at it that now I'm maybe in the lung here. I mustn't go too deep. Or if it's a big baby, you know that you are safe to go a little bit deeper because now it's a 5-year-old and you know the liver is quite big. So that's what I meant when I said your physiological experience as a nurse or as a doctor, because you know where the other parts located and you know how big is the lung of a 900 gram. I'm just giving an example that is very small. So the chances of you not getting the right tissue are very huge. So you must really pay attention when you're actually doing those kind of meats on those smaller bodies.
And the time that it takes. I mean, how long does it take to do one body, and how many bodies do you do normally in one day?
I mean, the procedure itself, not counting the physio, the logistics around it, like from consenting, try to get the body and all that. The procedure itself, when you got the body on the table, it's not that long. It can take 20 to 30 minutes to finish. It's not that long because it's not a lot of tissues and it's not complicated. The needle do the cutting and all that. So it takes 20 to 30 minutes just to do the procedure, taking the specimen from the body. And the logistic that takes longer is when you are trying to get the body from the fridge and you're not finding it on this freezer, it may be on the other freezer. So, but we've got a shorter way of doing it. We go to we've got Home Affairs in Barra, where they record all the bodies and they record their freezer number. So they give you that you go to C6 or C1, that's where you find that body. So that makes it easier for us not to open all the freezers, because there will be so many bodies, so many babies. You're looking for that specific one that is consented, so that could take longer. But the logistics around may be longer, but the procedure itself is quite quick and straightforward.
On the whole, generally, on average, how many bodies do you do in a single day?
You can do as many, but this won't be healthy for you to do so much. But I've alone, there was a day I was working alone, I did 3 alone. So that was the maximum bodies that I did alone. Because I'm not alone who do this, Susan also does. And so if we do 3 a day, though we won't find a space to do that, we can do up to 8 bodies, 9 bodies, if it's all of us. So, but we try not to do all of us on the same day so that one can get, a breather tomorrow while somebody else is doing, so that we don't go to the mortuary all of us at the same day, to give us time to kind of debrief in between. Yeah. So you can do up to 3 to 4 alone in a day.
Okay. And I mean, obviously you're picking up a whole lot of experience, a whole lot of lessons. You're picking up a whole lot of ways of doing things, certain tools that you begin to see, okay, I think this works better, and you can refine your what you do better and better every day. Can you talk about those? What it is you're picking up, whether it's lessons learned, whether it's ways of doing things, whether it's like, okay, I don't have to do this next time or I can do it that way next time, and so on.
I don't think I have specifics, but in general, practice makes it perfect. So by doing it on a daily basis, or we've done this 200, we kind of learn every day. I mean, your first day won't be the same as your second day. Maybe your first day you put the needle and then it went right throughout because you push it without knowing that it will push, and then you protrude the body to the other side. The next time then you know that, this is a very small baby. I must be really careful. I must go a little bit, and then so that when I push, it mustn't protrude to other organs. So that's kind of things that we learn when we go by, and we know that okay, the Maserati stillbirth is not a fresh stillbirth. The Maserati is difficult to get a CSF because now the head is squashed on the bone side, things like that. So the first time actually you actually try harder to get it, but the next day you know that it's impossible to get it on this other body. It's easier to get things like that. I'm just giving an example that you learn tricks and ways of doing things and what's easier and what's difficult. You know.
Okay, all right. And there's something you said also a little earlier on about Department of Home Affairs. You know, they give you, you know, the number C6 or whatever. And I'm seeing like an almost interdisciplinary relationship here. You know, here you are, you're doing champs, you're doing the myths. There's Department of Health. We just spoke with Professor Belapi, and now you talked about Department of Home Affairs. It seems like there's this, you know, way in which things are linked that if you were on your own, you wouldn't be able to do this. Can you talk about that relationship and the significance of it?
Okay, the Home Affairs, we've got Home Affairs here in Bara. It's an office, it's kind of built in opposite the mortuary. That's where all the deaths are recorded, and that's where they send the cars to fetch the bodies from the wards, different places around the hospital. So that's where we got information on where is the body. That's really helpful to us. And they actually worked wonders with us. I'll tell you the story where we found that there was no body in the mortuary. We looked all over, there was no body. We went to the Home Affairs, they said they can't actually see where is the body. But what they did, they sent the car to that place to find out if the body was there. They found out the body was there, it was just not fetched. So they integrate with us, and they help us to actually identify those corpses easily, and it makes our work much easier in that way.
But I mean, if you could talk about the significance of this interdisciplinary kind of relationship, where you can't do it without that one, without Department of Health, you can't do it without Department of Home Affairs. Talk about the importance of that.
I mean, from my experience, anything that has to do with health needs a multidisciplinary team. So you cannot be a single person who does all. You need other people to integrate on what you're doing, so that it makes it easier. The Home Affairs help us to identify the corpse from the freezers. They have their guys there who works in the mortuary that actually helps to open the freezers, pull the freezers back and look for the body for us. We don't have to do that ourselves. So you can imagine going through all those corpses every single day. So we have those people who actually help us, and they are hospital based. They are hired by hospital, but they help us to make our life and our job easier.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I know that you're quite emotional about this too, right? Having spoken with you. You know, why? I mean, I know that you said you want to save lives and whatever, but it seems like it's something that's pulling you. It's something that's more than just a job, more than just even saving lives. What is this? What is this thing?
It's more than, for me, it's more than what pharmacology can do. It's more than saving lives on only treatment. So it's about also the social, I would say the social background of the community, because parents are primary caregivers. Some death could be prevented not only by treatment or vaccines, by the parents being informed on symptoms and what to do on the earlier stage of sickness before it comes to death. So it could be, we could find maybe after myths, we could find that though other death could have been prevented maybe by having a nearest clinic nearest to that community, which could help the Department of Health to say, let's prevent it by giving those people a mobile clinic, so that when kids are sick, they could access health care before it comes to death point. So for me, it's much more broad than to say we'll discover a vaccine, we'll introduce new antibiotics. It's about also enhancing our community back there, our parents, so that they could be educated to say, these are the symptoms, and if you find that your child is coughing, I'll give you an example of one incident where the parents took the child to the crash. The child complicated. When he reaches Bara, the child died. We call it death on arrival. We went and consulted the parents. We did the myths, only to find out the child had pneumonia. So it could be that the child had symptoms, but you know, as parents, when the child has fever, we give Panado. When my child is coughing, I give cough mixture. We're actually suppressing the symptoms instead of actually treating the cause. So those are things that needs to be taught to the parents with regard to myths as well. I think it's going to enhance myths in a broader way.
Okay. I know she touched there. I did think, I was wondering, I was waiting for you to say yes. She touched the mic, she touched it 3 times. Sorry, you're going to have to say that again. I know, when you touch here is the microphone. But you didn't touch it before, that's why I never said anything to you. Sorry.
Can you change batteries?
Yes, yes. Sorry.
Should I hold the rope?
We are almost... There, you cut.
Gotcha. And take 5.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right. And you were speaking earlier on with Mile about, you know, the death certificate that will have whatever the doctor said, you know, upon death as the cause of death, right? And you do myths, and then you get the actual accurate cause of death. And sometimes they don't talk the same language, right? Can you talk about that and then talk about, you know, some of the dilemma that exists then on knowing the cause of death, and yet you can't put it on the death certificate, and how, in a way, there needs to be a change in policy, the impact, obviously, that chants and myths are having on the overall policy of a country.
Regarding the death certificate, actually it was one of the parents on the focus group, from the focus group, who actually asked that question. That was a good question. That when we find out the cause of death from myths, are we going to change the death certificate if the cause is not the same as what's already on the death certificate? And what I answered to her was, no, at this point, we are not capable of doing that because of different departments that actually involved. Because after that, the Home Affairs are the ones who actually issue the death certificate based on what the doctors in the ward has said is the cause of death. And if the child was a death on arrival where there's no actual diagnosis, or the child is died at home, they just call it natural death. So after myths, we actually found the cause of death. We are unable at this point to change the death certificate. And I think it could be a good idea if there could be a policy after the results of myths that will actually update the database of Home Affairs through Department of Health to say the cause of death at that point was this, but after the investigations based on myths, this is what we found. And at that point, we are able to update the database concerned with the death certificate. I think it's going to be a great idea, or a great thing for Department of Health and Home Affairs to integrate and do this.
No, definitely. There's many stories you told me when I saw you, your experiences, you know, some very exciting, some very sad. And there's this story that you told of when you went to community once and the parents were reluctant, but the grandmothers got them to agree, right?
Yes.
Do you remember the story? Yeah.
The story is, we always had the theory of thinking the grandparents are the difficult ones. But at this incident, the grandparents were actually the ones who actually agreed to meet and convince the actual parents of the child. So this thing of saying grandmothers or grandfathers, maybe they are the ones who have the problem, is not a general thing in our community. There are some grandparents who actually want to know the cause of the grandchild, who actually enhances our consent, and then they explain to the parents that this is a good idea. That's one incident that I visited the family and I encountered at that point. Yeah.
I mean, in a sense, what you're talking about is an even wider, I'm thinking about it from an African point of view, that family is not just the mother and father.
Yes.
Right? That family is the uncle, it's the grandmother, is babumngane, and so on and so on and so on. And all those people sometimes, as you well know, need to be consulted, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Can you talk about the specificity of the culture and how, in fact, it either complicates or makes it easy to get consent?
Because in our black community, the child is not for the immediate parents. The child is for the whole family. So the uncles, the grandfather, the grandmother have a say as well. I'll give you an example where the mother of an ex-grand baby consented to us, and the grandmother came in and said she cannot take a decision. She just got married. She's a makoti, so she can't sign. And the grandmother refuses, and we didn't do the means, regardless of what the mother wants, because the baby doesn't belong to only her. And if we insisted on doing it, we could have caused conflict on the family. We want to enhance peace to the family so that they can know the cause of death, so that they could be at ease. We don't want to cause conflict. Even between the two parents, if one parent is disagree, we don't do it. There has to be agreement of the whole family to say we have agreed to do it, because that's how the black community is. The child is not for the one who gave birth to. Yeah.
Anything that we haven't asked that you like, that you must say, that, whether it's around your experience, whether it's whatever it is, on the technical side, on the scientific side, on the social, what is it that for somebody who is not in this room, who hasn't heard you speak, who has not been exposed to chants and myths, what would you say to them as a way of either giving them more understanding?
The ones who,
for whoever,
community or the staff or
whichever you choose.
Okay, I think I spoke a lot about the community. I didn't talk about the staff, the experience. Because even if it's an easy procedure to do, it's got a lot of emotions involved around it. That's a child of somebody, but it's also my child. I may not have given birth to that child, but somehow I'm a mother. So though most of the time we won't know the circumstances surrounding the death, but if you know, it kind of touch you emotionally. Like, I felt so emotional on the child of the healthy child that I saw. The doctor said it was multi injection. I felt like smacking those parents, because I'm not saying I'm against them taking the child to Sangoma, but if they take the child to Sangoma and they see it's not waking, why didn't they rush to the hospital on time? Because for me, that was like a healthy child. A very beautiful girl of 5-year-old. I have my own 5-year-old, and I can't imagine that happens. I'm not saying that it mustn't have happened, but they could have done something. Maybe after the death, they could have said, we've done 1, 2, 3. So sometimes you're kind of emotionally touched by the death itself, even if you have to carry on, do your normal duty as person who's supposed to do meals at that time. There are things that we carry out, we carry them with us when we go to our homes, to our families, because we are touched by them. So kind of, even though you tell yourself here that you're going to separate your emotions and from your work, you can't separate the two most of the time. So you need to be actually professionally strong to be able to stand to do the myths. Yeah, that's what I would say.
Thank you. Cut. Anything else? No? You happy? Yes, I'm happy.